West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
It's 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, August 29th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. We've all been watching the news out of what happened in Minnesota, the shooting that took place at the Annunciation Catholic school that took place up there. Heartbreaking. Happened to have a friend of mine who I did ministry with back in college who spent the last 20 years doing ministry in Minnesota, and actually his ministry has a partnership with Annunciation. He was there just hours after the shooting took place and had a very powerful message that he posted on social media, and I just messaged him, said, hey, Cesar, I think this is a great message for people to hear, especially they see the news, but you have the personal connection. You were in the room with the parents just hours after the shooting took place and can give us some insight, more importantly, action steps that we could do, compassion, prayer for that community up there. And I just messaged him, hey, would you be willing to come on? He's kind enough to join us this morning. Cesar Castellanos, thank you for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, good morning.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, I'm so sorry. I know this took place in the community that you minister in. Give us, first of all, a little insight. How's the community doing?
The community is coming together in ways that I had hoped, definitely grieving. And as fresh as it is, more stories are coming out about the heroic children that were in Mass. And so there's some light in the darkness, but definitely people close to the situation are feeling it definitely on a different level. But I was at the school yesterday and seeing people drop off flowers, and anyone with children lost a child. And so that's what's been heartbreaking and hopeful at the same time, is to see people come together because of this.
That's Cesar Castellanos. He does ministry in Minnesota, or in Minneapolis, Minnesota, has a partnership with Annunciation Catholic School. Now, Cesar, you mentioned in a video, and people can find this on your Instagram account, which I'll link to, but you were there. You rushed over to the school right after you heard the news. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Ellie, who's the youth director at Annunciation Catholic Church, is on our team. We do our staff meetings in the church. And so I was at a different meeting and got word that there was a shooting at Annunciation, and my other coworker, Darby, and I just started driving towards the school. At that point, we had known that there was no active shooter, but it was within minutes of hearing it. So as I drove to the school, the helicopters were flying above, blocks away from the school. There's police cars blocking the street. So I just pulled over and ran towards the school. And I just wanted to check in with our staff person there and see if there's any way that we could help. And so I'm running into the school alongside of parents that were rushing in to find the location of their children. And so that was the situation I was running towards.
What was going through your mind?
You know, what was going through my mind before it hit the news, because I was driving on the way there, I called my wife just to see, hey, is there anything on the news? And she's Googling it. I'm on the phone with her, and she sees that there is something, and our next-door neighbor, her two daughters go to school there. So I hear my wife running out of our house, and I hear my neighbor frantically crying in the background as I'm driving to the school. So I'm hearing all of this, and so when I pull up and seeing all these parents rushing into the school, there was a sense of relief because my kids didn't go there, but then I was swept up in the panic of all the other parents. And for me, I was just trying to remain calm in the midst of that for the sake of those around me. And as we got closer to the school. There was other people in the neighborhood just trying to move towards the school, but the police were saying, "Are you family? Parents only?" And I said, "I'm not family, but I'm a youth worker." And a police officer said, "Hey, get in there. They'll need your help." And so at that point, I wasn't really thinking about how I was feeling. I was just kicked into what can I do to help? And so I got into the school. I got to the bottom of the stairwell where all the parents were moving towards the gym. And the police officer there said, "Hey, you need to inform all the parents of what to do." And they told me, tell the parents to go into the gym, find their child, assure their safety, and then head up to the auditorium to take a picture with the child and check out, because they were still trying to find which students were unaccounted for. And so that was my role. I just stuck around and just was praying and just being a person in the room that could comfort the children. So I found Ellie, my coworker, and she was obviously distraught, and she was telling me about what she experienced in the sanctuary, and that she was laying under a pew and just praying. And she told me it lasted about 2 minutes. And so I was with her, and we would just go up to children that were still waiting for their parents to get there, just to make sure that they were okay. And then I saw some parents who did not see their children in the gym. And that was heartbreaking for me to see, just because I had seen the frantic parents coming in and seeing the relief that they had felt. I saw that visibly as their children were running towards them. But in the background, I was seeing other parents that were distraught, that were frantically texting and calling and trying to find the whereabouts of their children.
Wow. I can't imagine how hard that must have been. To just, to be right there on the front lines to see that.
I didn't know, actually, I didn't have time to think about how this would affect me, because I was there, and once I saw Ellie, I there was relief, because that's what I came to see. But as I was standing there and as the gym got quiet, I'm picturing the kids in there, and I have a 9, 8, and 5-year-old. Yeah. And these children were my kids' ages. Mm. And just seeing the response of parents. Another thing that I then posted on my social media was I was looking at all the police that were posted at all the doors. There was no active threat at that point, but police were everywhere. And the sheriffs were everywhere. The SWAT team was going about the building. The FBI agents were there. And I could tell which agents, police officers, and sheriffs had children, because they were visibly distraught just being there. And as they stood post, I would just give a head nod, and I could see tears welling up. And I could just imagine that these, people of strength and honor that had to be in their post were feeling it, and they were around it. And so proximity to pain, that leads us to compassion.
And that's what I want to talk about. You have a very powerful video on your Instagram account. By the way, his Instagram is Cesar, Cesar Jr. 1 of 1. Cesar, talk to us about the importance of compassion at this moment.
Yeah, what I see in contrast to a lot of things that are happening on social media, on media everywhere, is when you choose to advocate for your side, whatever side that is, when you choose that first, that shapes what you post, what you say, what you do. If that is paramount to your decision to post is shaped by defending something. What I know from my experience is that when you choose compassion first, and compassion means to suffer with, when you choose that first, it shapes what you say, and it might shape what you don't say. And in my video, and I believe this to be true, there's 3 components to compassion, and the first one's pain. That when you see this type of situation, you don't jump to anger. To have compassion, you have to have pain first. You have to suffer with somebody. And so that's what happened is I heard and I felt the pain that moved me towards something. The second element is compassion. It goes pain, and then there's proximity. You have to draw near to it. And when you draw near to it, you're making a conscious effort not to run away from it. You're moving towards it. And so it's pain, proximity, but then presence. Because we all know you can be near someone but not be with them. I've gone to dinner with people, but they're on their phone. So just because you're across the table doesn't mean you're with them. So feeling the pain, drawing near to it, and actually being present in it. And when I was in the school, grieving with parents and just praying with people, I couldn't have anger towards anyone. I was wrapped up in compassion. And so that's really my invitation to people is have compassion first. Choose compassion, because sometimes it's natural for some, and sometimes it's a learned behavior because some people just jump to anger or jump to division right away. But my invitation is when you jump to compassion first and you choose that, you're choosing the way of Christ, and you're choosing to be in it with people. And so that's really my hope and my message is that when you see this tragedy, that you enter in and that you come alongside of, and that you're present in other people's pain.
Well, brother, when I think of this emergency and I think of the people that rushed, you often think of law enforcement, you think of firefighters, you think of first responders. And in this case, a pastor ran towards the scene as well. Brother, it got me. And I think it's an important message, and it's a testimony to your character. And Cesar, I know you got a busy day. The fact you took time to join us, to give us some insight into what that was like, and to remind everybody towards compassion means a lot. And I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you for your witness. Thank you for your compassion, your love in the midst of that horrific scene up there in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Please know our prayers here in Denver, Colorado are with you all. And really, really proud of the work that you're doing and the message this morning. So thank you, Cesar Castellanos.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you gave grace and hope to so many families in their worst time yesterday. Thank you for being there. Thank you for sharing the love of God. Thank you for being there to support. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Cesar Castellanos, follow him on Instagram. You can see his message, Cesar, CESAR, JR, 1 of 1. Heard of the tragedy, ran towards it.
Yeah,
just like any other first responder. And then to be with those families. Very powerful.
Oh, so hard.
All right, now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Good morning. It's Friday, 59 and partly cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 80 today. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, AAA says drivers are urged to travel before noon today or early tomorrow and Sunday morning, or before noon on Monday to avoid the worst traffic this Labor Day weekend. Gas prices are at their lowest levels since 2020. A listener reported to Billy last hour to use caution westbound 270 at Vasquez. Evidently, some cement breaking off from one of the bridges. Meanwhile, TSA expects to screen over 17 million passengers during the holiday weekend, but you don't have to take off your shoes. Governor Polis says Colorado no longer has a budget deficit. He announced the cuts he'll be making to cover the $750 million hole in the state budget Thursday. Polis's reversal of the state's plans to increase reimbursement rates for health care providers who see Medicaid recipients will save $38 million. He's also slashing spending on higher education and grants as part of $52.5 million in total cuts. Republican Barb Kirkmeyer wants to know why certain programs were protected while others, like Medicaid provider rates, took a hit.
I'm just curious as to why that you cut provider rates and you cut health care essentially for making it difficult for families that are on Medicaid to access health care. Those provider rates and that Medicaid, they draw down federal funds.
Human remains found near Superior have been identified as a man reported missing earlier this year. The family of 34-year-old Paul Aragon said his last contact was in late April. His dog was found inside his truck in Broomfield on May 2nd. DJT is revoking Kamala Khan's Secret Service protection on September 1st. Former VPs are automatically granted 6 months of protection after leaving office. She's preparing to kick off a high-profile book tour coinciding with the release of her memoir, 107 Days of Hell. I made that part up. It's 107 days. Authorities say the trans man who murdered 2 children and injured over a dozen others was a former student at the Catholic Church in Minneapolis. His mother worked at the church and has reportedly hired criminal defense attorneys and not cooperating with police. Here's VP JD on what happened 2 days ago.
This is just an unbelievable tragedy. And we have to remember that there are a couple of families who yesterday had the worst day of their lives, and it's not going to get much better from here because of what this evil person took from these families, which is these 2 beautiful kids. That's my first response to it. My second response to it is I'm praying every single day, multiple times a day, that while two deaths is tragic, 3 deaths is even more tragic, and I hope it stays at 2, because there still are some kids who seem to be in pretty serious condition at the hospital, so we're praying for their swift recovery.
And as we last reported, over 15 injured in that shooting. Remember all those missing children thanks to the wide open Biden border and borders, even in Canada? Tom Homan this morning with an update.
Out of the 300,000 children, I looked at the numbers just yesterday. We've located over 23,000 of them. So 23,000 locations of the 300,000. Well, President Trump's committed. We're not going to stop till we find every one of them, or run every lead down on those 300,000 children. That's a big plus for the administration, because the last administration wasn't even looking for them.
No, they weren't. Lawyers for Kilmar Garcia. They want a gag order on top 47 administration officials in a motion filed Thursday. Abrego Garcia's attorneys said administration officials have been making comments that could affect the pool of jurors in his Tennessee criminal trial. Garcia is facing potential deportation as he awaits trial on human smuggling charges, as you probably already know. What does the 93-year-old founder of Cracker Barrel think of the failed brand adjustment that occurred this week?
Logo rolled out the other day.
Oh, that's crazy. That's nothing. That's a bland nothing. It's pitiful.
Do you think she knows the story of Cracker Barrel?
I don't think so. I heard she was a Taco Bell, but what's Taco Bell know about a Cracker Barrel? And country food. And the food is something that they need to work on. Spending $700 million to do that is all I've been doing. I'm just throwing money out the street.
Well, you got that right. College football for area teams kicking off last night. Wyoming goes on the road to beat Akron.
Aiden Anderson has played effectively tonight. He threw that bubble screen. That is caught. Heading to the house. Touchdown. Chris Durr.
10-0 the final over the Zips from Akron. Tonight, CU playing host to Georgia Tech at Folsom. 6 o'clock kickoff. Tomorrow, CSU at Washington State and Air Force. They will play host to Bucknell. 57 in Parker, 56 in Boulder, 59 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Deep moisture remains over the Front Range in eastern Colorado Plains. So for today, we're still going to have a very good chance of afternoon and evening thunderstorms, Saturday as well, before things dry out Sunday and Monday. Afternoon and evening thunderstorms, upper 70s and low 80s today. Afternoon and evening thunderstorms Saturday, upper 70s, near 80 and sunny on Sunday, 80s for Labor Day Monday. Weather is a service of L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, Jared Polis ordering $103 million in cuts, sweeping cash accounts to help close the budget gap, and they're going to delay sending some money to Wolves. Because when it comes down to it, these Democrats are willing to fund people. Now, they've made this choice between funding health care for illegal immigrants or funding Wolves, and they chose health care for illegal immigrants. But maybe it's a little bit better than Wolves to provide us a little bit of context on all this, some insight. The assistant minority leader down at the Colorado House of Representatives, Ty Winter, joins the show. Good morning, Representative.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you guys for having me on. Really appreciate you all.
Well, at least you're not in session this morning. So give us an update. How did it go? What's coming out of all this? And we're even seeing Jared Polis finally stepping up and making some cuts in some accounts. Give us your thoughts.
Right. Gentlemen, like you all know, we had a bunch of ideas to propose. I ran a bill to strip the $4 million away from the governor's office that they set aside to sue the administration. So that was one bill I ran, and my colleague ran a host of bills to try to make really cuts. I mean, we were going to reduce spending by about $213 million ourselves just if our legislation would have passed. But as you know, we showed up to pre-cooked, pre-baked, like Representative DeGrasse said, rubber stamp palooza. And it was just unfortunate because the people of Colorado, they didn't win here. I mean, there's going to be $153 million in new taxes next year. They're going to cut the general fund spending. I mean, they're going to raise it by $103 million. And the Taxpayer Bill of Rights took a beating because so many of these bills just circumvented the Constitution, basically, when it circumvented the Taxpayer Bill of Rights.
Yeah, we had Rose Puglisi on Wednesday at the live broadcast, and she pointed out that what the legislature does under a Democrat control is they pass something and it's automatically assumed to be constitutional. That's the way the Colorado Constitution sets it up. So if you want to litigate it, you now got to go find attorneys, raise the money to pay the attorneys, and then challenge it. That can take a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years before it finally gets overturned. The Democrats know this, so they'll just go up there and raise your taxes anyways, right?
Yeah, that's right. And what's scary, guys, is, I mean, we're talking about structural shortfall. Senator Kirkmeyer, Representative Taggart, they laid it out very well, our JBC members. I mean, we're talking about $798 million of taxes over the next 3 years, and then they cut businesses. So they took away business tax credits, they changed tax structure for business, and they said that they were going after the big guy to protect the little guy, and then they turn around the next day and they sell tax credits to the big guy. So nothing was consistent, nothing made sense, and unfortunately the people of Colorado came out losing. But here's the deal. The House Republicans fought, and we fought hard. We gave it what we could. They silenced us quite a few times, but at the end of the day, I think our constituents can know that whenever something goes on, we band together and we at least try to get, their story out there at the well.
That's the Assistant Minority Leader, Ty Winter, you're listening to. We're talking about the wrapping up of the special session. Polis now ordering $103 million in cuts. They're looking to tap into reserves as well to offset an $800 million budget deficit that the state has found itself in light of tax changes that are coming at the national level. Help people understand, because Democrats are running around going, Donald Trump caused this. Jeff Crank, Gabe Evans, Lauren Boebert, Jeff Hurd, they all caused this. This isn't our fault. This has to do with the fact that we tie our tax rate essentially to the federal tax rate. So if that gets lowered, well, there's just not as much money coming into the state. And Democrats are making the argument, well, now we don't have the money to do all these programs, when in reality, you just kept the money with the people, at least at the federal level. Now the state's going to try to take that away, but help people understand how we got into this situation.
So at the end of the day, we don't have a revenue problem in the state. We have a priority problem. You touched on over $500 million that goes to people that, have come to this country illegally. That is a huge hole in their hole. If you look at it, that patch is a big piece. But what makes it hard is if we didn't spend so much money, we would have money to backfill these things. I mean, we've killed oil and gas, we've killed coal, we've killed steel. We're going after agriculture next. Industry's leaving the state. So we're taking revenue out of this state. But still, Jeff, with that happening, we are still making money. The state still has some business here. But at the end of the day, you can't mince those things, and businesses are going to leave. And I think what we need to do is we need to start pushing on the Democrats, saying you're killing industry that helps fund this state, and then you're taking in your funding pet projects when we could have backfilled this shortfall within the state. So, and then when it comes to like the SNAP benefits, there's a benchmark they have to hit. So we have a 10% error rate in the state of Colorado. If we had a 6% error rate of overpayments and underpayments, this would break even for them. So putting more pressure to say, hey, we have to tighten things up, you know what I mean? Trying to make sure there's no waste, fraud, or abuse. And if we do those things, we're fine. So there's things that we could do, but at the end of the day, the Democrats chose clean energy over Coloradans. The Democrats chose people that have come to this country illegally over all Coloradans. And it's unfortunate. And I wanted to touch really quick, since we're talking about that on the wolf thing you brought up.
Yeah.
I just want you all to know that money goes to the Healthcare Enterprise Fund. So it goes to more than just funding. I mean, I would just say that it could go to administration costs in a rural hospital. It could go to rural healthcare. So I would just like to clear that, could some of that money go to fund, an abortion? It may, but it goes into a larger pool of money. And I just want to clarify that, because at the end of the day, all the representatives that voted for that bill, I know you all believe the consent of the governed. Well, we have ranchers, farmers, agricultural producers, those groups that represent them calling us, and we're working through the bill process. I would like to say that with the bills that we sponsor, we really do a lot of stakeholdering. And when you have presidents of major groups that are, endorsing or being endorsed by thousands of cattle ranchers saying, here's the deal, Representative Winter, this was the sentiment they gave us. We originally wanted the first wolf bill, which would have been paused reintroduction. We're not happy that this bill is going to allow special interests to put money into this program, since the tax dollars would be taken away from funding reintroduction. But at the end of the day, we don't want our tax dollars going to fund the reintroduction. And on the other hand, guys, this would have given a win to the governor and the governor's husband. They would have touted this. You know how they are. They would have ran around with a flag saying, look, even the legislature don't want to touch the wolf reintroduction. So there was a lot of things to weigh in that decision. So I just want to lay that out there. That was one of the less controversial bills, but I've heard some stuff being said here and there, and I just kind of wanted to clarify and level set on a few of those things.
No, and we have as well. I've gotten messages from other Republican representatives explaining their vote on it. So I understand it was a complicated position to put people in. Are you going to fund this healthcare enterprise, as you pointed out, that could, yes, go to illegal immigrants, but at least you're stopping some of the wolf funding that's going out there. By the way, did you guys see that headline, Bill, that the wolves are now starting to get into Boulder's watershed?
Oh, sure, of course. That's where that's easy prey, and they're gonna
come down.
Well, oddly enough, wolves can't read maps and don't know where boundary lines are. That's weird. Dodd, we didn't know that first.
Well, good luck with the ranchers over on the Eastern Plains if they cross I-25.
Yes.
And we live out in Elbert County, and there's already some concern about predators coming over to us because. Look, it's an agricultural process up there. It's very similar to what they're having to deal with on ranches on the western slope where, it's kind of fast food for a wolf to show up and get a baby calf. It's just sitting right there. So, well, Representative Winter, you guys have wrapped up this special session. What happens next? The governor's made some cuts. The governor's raided some of the reserves. Are you guys, is it essentially... We've addressed this for 2026. We'll wait until the next session starts in January. Where do you guys go from here?
I think we're going to show up with even more TDS once we get into the billing this next session. Things have been really tense. This was probably the most tense I've seen a session, and this is my, I've been doing my third session plus third special session. So I think the main thing is to prepare to talk to the grassroots and talk to the people of Colorado. We have so many people to explain, hey, not only is there a problem, but we have to offer a solution to that problem because everybody can complain about problems. And then once we offer that solution, we have to convince voters to say we have a better plan for this. I think another thing is we need to start pushing out more in our grassroots and educating people, because there's people that don't even know we had a special session. So I think that's how we move forward. I think we'd be prepared to go into the House with some good legislation next year. We're prepared to fight for the people of Colorado. But the last thing I want to say about this special session is I pointed this out numerous times. This was a rules for thee, not for me special session. And what makes it hard for me, and Jeff, you live in a rural county, is the unfunded mandates that they put on our rural counties are no different than what they claim the federal government is doing to them right now. That's the same with the governor being upset, suing the federal government for taking dollars from Colorado, because he has literally told counties that won't sign on to his affordable housing plan that he is going to withhold funds from them. So we need to point out to the people of Colorado the hypocrisy of how the governor and the Democrats have so much power in this state, but then on the other end, they're mad when the federal government is invoking that kind of power on them. And I just don't understand the hypocrisy of that. So we just need to get the message out, and we need just to start fighting for truth and liberty. And I've got faith that Colorado can survive this, and I'm not leaving. This is my Alamo.
Well, I appreciate that, because we're going to talk with CJ Garbo a little bit later, who wrote a piece in Rocky Mountain Voice going, look, I'm out of here. I can't deal with it anymore. But I want to just briefly, on this issue, Representative Winter, Assistant Minority Leader, poll after poll coming out, people don't believe that the government is working for them in Colorado. They're tired of everything getting more expensive in the state. And I sit there and I go, guys, well, that's anywhere you elect Democrats. Anywhere you elect Democrats. San Francisco, California, Chicago, Illinois, Seattle, Washington, wherever, Portland, Oregon. Your taxes are going to go up because they believe in the redistribution of wealth, and your services are going to get worse, and everything else is going to get more expensive. But why doesn't that break through to voters? I mean, if that was the case, why wouldn't they run out there and just flip everything and go, we're going to put Republicans in control? Why do they continue to elect Democrats and then complain about the direction of the state?
Well, I think, like I said, people are busy. They're raising kids. They've got 2 to 3 jobs. They're struggling. And right now, unfortunately, the thing that's the farthest concern from them is politics. But Senator Rod Pelton says this all the time. When people say, I don't get involved in politics, he says, well, politics are involved in your everyday life. So we just need to get out. The grassroots is where this is going to be. And I think Republicans have to go to places that we don't go. Republicans have to start hitting the inner city. It doesn't do any good to run around and speak in the vacuum. And I think we have to be bold. Fortune favors the bold. And that's kind of the battle cry of the House Republicans. I have that sign in my office. And then the Democrats are drunk on power. And what we need to tell the voters is they've had the keys to the car. They're driving it drunk. Hand the keys over to somebody else. So I think we have to realize that we need to talk to people in a way that they can understand politics, because all of us that are in the game, we speak it at an ultra high level, and we need to start talking to people how it affects their everyday lives instead of throwing numbers, instead of throwing percentages at them. Say, hey, this is what it's going to take a bag of groceries out of your cart. This is what it's going to do to your monthly budget. So we just need to be with the people. And once the people see that Republicans are going into places that they've never been, and they're willing to, put some time and effort to explaining things, we're going to start to flip votes, and we will take this state back. I have faith in it, sir.
That's going to be the debate today, because like I mentioned, we're going to talk with CJ Garbo, who is leaving Colorado as a conservative. Ty Winter staying here and fighting. Always great to talk with you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
Have a great day. Appreciate you all. God bless Colorado, but most importantly, God bless America.
Amen. All right, let's talk Labor Day opportunities at Mountain High Appliance. Labor Day honors hard work, and KitchenAid has been one of the hardest working brands since 1919. Mountain High is clearing out KitchenAid's floor models to make room for new arrivals so you can take advantage of their guaranteed lowest price. Mountain High has Colorado's most experienced sales staff, so why would you go anywhere else? Get to Mountain High Appliance today and experience the difference. Mountain High Appliance, great people there, providing some wonderful opportunities for some KitchenAid floor models. Go check them out this Labor Day weekend. All right, we'll continue. Join the conversation. Phone line 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Campos Law text line 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. 5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Governor Jared Polis ordered $103 million in cuts to spending across agencies and the sweeping of $146 million from state cash accounts on Thursday to help plug the rest of the state's large budget deficit. He also plans to use up to $328 million from the state's rainy day fund account as the final part of a three-pronged plan to close the projected $783 million budget gap for the current fiscal year. His announcement of those actions followed a special session in which the legislature passed changes to state income tax breaks and other legislation that will raise money. That's a nice way to say taxes. Raise money. Just raising it in. Just, oh, goodness, look, we got new money. Did people voluntarily give that? Yeah, is raising taxes a bad thing?
Yeah,
yes, 100%. Always.
Okay,
Always.
Always. Then how do you feel about tariffs?
Always. Are those taxes?
Yes.
You think tariffs are taxes?
Yes.
Huh.
They're import taxes. Yeah, they're forced. You have to pay them. And they're placed on the goods. How else would you define them? Fees? Because none of the importers decided on these fees or taxes or tariffs. These were implemented by our chief executive. And they are bragging about how much money is rolling into our coffers, that we're making money, ignoring the fact that a majority of that money is paid either by the importer or by the consumer in America. That is a tax.
I don't know if I see it the same way.
Okay, then what is it then?
Yeah,
what
I
is
don't
a
know
tariff?
if
How
I
is it
see it
not?
the same way. I see it as an encouragement to change behavior.
So is a tax. I can raise taxes on cigarettes. I can raise taxes on cigarettes as an encouragement to change behavior.
Yeah, that would be a sin tax, right? But if, for instance, the state took away the ability of a business to keep some of the money it collected in its retail fees, for instance, and now the state's going to collect that. I don't know how that would change behavior, right? Like that was essentially a tax break to retail businesses, and that is now gone. So businesses are going to have less money. I don't know how you would change behavior out of that. Whereas with a tariff, the point of a tariff is to either get another country to do some form of policy change, like, for instance, to get Mexico to take on the cartels, or to get businesses to bring their manufacturing back on shores and improve American jobs.
Well, here's the thing: is we've established that taxes can be done to encourage or discourage behavior, and they also can sit outside of that. But all of those would fall under the umbrella of taxes, and because of that umbrella, tariffs would fall under the umbrella of taxes based on how they function. It's a tax. It's a tax on the consumer. It's a tax on the importer. Yes, it is, by all definitions.
Yeah, I don't know. I just see it differently.
Well, it's the same way as the Democrats calling it fees. It's the same way that Democrats call it fees.
No, I see it as an
thing.
opportunity to get countries to adjust their policies. So
we're encouraging behaviors, which again, tax. Same thing. That's it. It still falls under the umbrella, the larger umbrella of taxes. It still falls under the idea of taxes. So that's the idea. Is I disagree that we always think that taxes are necessarily bad. As long as they're doing something that we want them to, it's good. When we all side on that, if it's doing something that we agree with. Now, I do agree with you that the taxation of the Democrats here inside of Colorado is largely stupid, and what they're going after, because they're using their taxes in order to try and maintain revenue for things that, in my mind, shouldn't necessarily be priorities. There are other things that are outlined in priorities, and I think they do a bad job. And I think that Representative Ty Winter that joined us is absolutely right, that it is a prioritization issue. Which, and again, I hate to bring this back, but that was my issue when we were talking about DOGE with the fraud, waste, and abuse. The waste and abuse to me was a prioritization issue, and we have it here in Colorado. For the Colorado lawmakers to still prioritize the wolf reintroduction program is abuse and waste in my mind, because of where we are financially. Yeah. It is silly to continue to spend the money on that given where our budget is. We don't have that excess or largesse. To me, that's stupid. It is a mismanagement of the budget. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we agree on that one.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. See, there are a lot of things we agree on, a lot of things we disagree on. That's what makes the show fun. That's what makes the show fun, my friend.
Feel free to join the conversation, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law tax line. I love that. 720-819-5115. Have you ever seen how you could go to the IRS and just donate to them?
Yeah.
Do you think anybody ever does that?
I want to know who, but I doubt it. Well, I guess
I've never heard a report if the IRS actually receives any donations.
Yeah, see, the question, this is the reason, is it would only happen if there is, to bring it back to where we started, a tax shelter. If there is anything in there.
Right, a benefit.
So the idea being that if I throw you this money now, does it lessen my burden in the future? Does it allow me to a greater write-off? What does it do? If there's something functionally that allow an individual to save money, then yes, absolutely. Absolutely they would. But I have a hard time thinking that would be written into any other tax code. So yeah, I doubt it.
If you really believe that the government was doing all this good stuff too, wouldn't you want to donate to them?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
But you don't see that happen. All right. Let's talk Dan Caplis with Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everybody involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is also believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts on Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. In fact, Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. You and Iggy having fun on the text messages, by the way.
Yes, we are. Iggy's good.
Iggy wants to know where the revenue for the cigarettes are, and Bill wrote, up in smoke.
Yes.
Good one. All right, join the conversation. Let's have some fun. It's Friday. Before Labor Day, you're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go to the phone lines. Dave and Golden. Good morning, Dave.
Morning.
Good morning. I've been listening this last couple of weeks about the Colorado State Legislature's special session and going back and forth, listening to the DNC debates and stuff like that. And something came to mind that I think there would be more value in approaching the Democratic problem in saying that we are now a one-party state. As a one-party state with one leader, isn't that called a dictatorship?
Not if you get to vote.
If so, what?
Not if you get to vote.
They get to vote in Russia. They get to vote in China. They get to vote. But my point is, I think there would be more value in not.
Do you think China and Russia are the same votes? Do you think it's the same system that fundamentally that we have here?
No, but they're calling it democratic, even though it's not.
Okay, but then it wouldn't be dictator. Then again, your terminology is wrong. Keep going, but your terminology is wrong. It's not a dictatorship.
But,
you can be upset about it. You can be mad about the Democrats in control and the people voting against their own interest. Yeah, but I just disagree with the idea because I think it discounts your potential point by calling it a dictatorship. I just think it discounts your position. That's the only reason I'm pushing back on this one, so continue.
I agree. I appreciate that. And, coming from that Frank Sapera school of speech and debate, I appreciate that. So, Trump has always been the claim against him is that he wants to be a dictator. I think that the Democrats pushing against Trump that way is a correct way for them to go, in that it's a focal point of who the bad guy is. I think by claiming that the Democrats in general in Colorado are the problem and not specifically rifling in on Polis as the perpetrator of that problem is where conservatives and probably even independents in Colorado are missing the shot. They're missing the advantage of going after the head and not leaving the body alone, but just take it, just focusing all their energy and anger on one person. Focus it on Polis. This is all his. This is all his agenda, all his legislature, all his government right now in Colorado. And even though he's moving on, it's okay. He still needs to be the focal point to show that his policies and his form of government are not.
Okay. Now, Dave, got a question for you. Would you advise? Now, this is going to be for a conversation later on in the show, and we're running out of time. So, real quickly, would you advise the Colorado GOP to focus on economic issues or cultural issues? What would you tell the Colorado GOP to focus on?
Economic.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. I think that's the mistake the Colorado GOP is making. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate the phone call.
Also, I want to point out, Jared Polis bought his seat. Yeah, he's King Polis. He also was the type of politician that paid to win his seats, which is wild. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
I just want that bank account for a day. This is KNUS.